Today we watched another Brendan Fraser movie to cap off our sort of Fraser fan trilogy. And I went with one that was less obvious, I guess, than Furry Vengeance or Looney Tunes Back in Action or, one of those gems. Today I chose for us to watch Dudley Do Right. Came out in 1999, same year as The Mummy. I watched this when I was a little kid and hadn't seen it since. And I was very curious to see how it held up. And, well, we'll talk about that. Boys, what are your initial thoughts about this movie?
Ooh.
Well, so I didn't have any connection to this movie. I've never seen it. The closest that I have a connection to it is that I remember doing our weekend adventures to Blockbuster just down the road, my family and I, and looking through movies, and I feel like I remember at least 3 different times where we were trying to rent a movie probably that we've already seen hundreds of times, and my parents were like, well, we could watch this, and it was Dudley Do Right. I remember the poster and everything on there, and we would always be like, nah. And I think we made a good choice there.
Definitely. Yeah. Yes. Eli, how about you?
I never watched it back then. And, I didn't miss much, I don't think. But we'll get into that. I don't know if I quite enjoyed it. But
yeah, I feel like I made a mistake. I didn't remember anything about this movie. All I remembered was that Brendan Fraser was in it and he's a Mountie. That's pretty much all that I remember.
And even then, he's hardly a Mountie in the movie.
Yeah. So Dudley Do Right is a character that's from the Rocky and Bullwinkle show that used to be on. And it was kind of a variety show where they would just show different segments. And one of the segments was Dudley Do Right, which was kind of almost like a parody of silent films. Kind of a Popeye-esque situation. She always gets in trouble, he saves her, and then that's kind of the whole plot of every episode.
Probably a bunch of 5-minute shorts or whatever.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say that I get that sense from the villain. He looks like a silent movie villain.
Yeah.
And then they kind of did the whole train thing a couple times, which is kind of a standard thing. And
yeah, big trope.
Yeah. So, I guess that was good. That they kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest issue with this is I've actually watched quite a few movies recently where they really play into kind of the Looney Tunes but in live action, and it works really well. But in this, it seemed like a lot of the time, there were a few times where they did it okay.
Sure.
But for the most part, it was characters just doing what they would normally do in a live action setting. But then they threw in little or
yeah, Foley or whatever.
Yeah, and it doesn't fit because they're not going
yeah, yeah.
Off camera and silly stuff like that. They're just kind of running and it does a little
yeah.
Just a silly sound effect.
Or them doing a pratfall or something. It's
Yeah, but it's they just kind of fall. And I was this feels lazy. They think that just because they add the sound effect, it'll make it funny or cartoony enough.
Yeah, I think they were just really they're let's just make a live action cartoon.
But they didn't.
Well, there were certain parts certain parts that they. I'm getting there.
The best part of the film.
There, okay. There are certain parts that are like extraordinary, or like parts that are very heightened, or like come out of nowhere, like Whiplash and his gang of thugs like showing up in like boats and like military gear with like tanks and like that kind of thing. Just like very like big exaggerations and like things that like you could only really do in a cartoon.
I would say the horse was very cartoonish. Like they did something with that kind of. He was like
sure
making noises and
yeah, the horse.
We're not talking about Sarah Jessica Parker. We're talking about the horse. No, I'm kidding.
He falls in love with two horses in this movie.
Gives a new meaning to the term horse girl.
Anyways.
So this movie is weird and wacky and like,
but not nearly enough.
Not well done enough to be like fun and interesting. Yeah. I did like Alfred Molina as Snidely Whiplash.
Yeah, he was fine.
I think he pulled off the character the best that he could, given with like what he had. And there were most of the time when I was laughing, it was either at him or at the Native Americans. Native Americans.
Best part of the film.
I mean, honestly, it was the most entertaining part because I was like, what is this?
Well, and it's like, it was so hard to really tell exactly what they were doing because you knew they were like playing into the like racially insensitive jokes that they were doing. But it also, like, again, it's like they like go far enough, but then they don't, it's not like enough to really figure out exactly what they're doing.
Well, I think, so when I kind of read into it, which I thought was kind of funny, it's like, I've never been to them, but sometimes like, I guess they're called First Nations over in Canada, but Native Americans or whatever we call them here, like they, sometimes they have like those events where they go and they kind of put on like a little show. I think they're just kind of making fun of that type of thing, which was funny because
it's like they mash sort of like a potlatch, like, you know, drum circle kind of like ritual thing with like a Vegas show.
Yeah. And I think that happens in real life, and I think they were just kind of poking fun of that whole thing, which was
sure.
And I don't know, it was funny because it was like kind of insensitive, but just like a tad bit, you know?
Yeah, that was like the only like part that really like got a reaction from me because I was like, oh.
Well, so they kind of like made the joke where they were doing river dancing. So similarly, how the Irish were able to export that whole concept, it was like they were trying to export some sort of native thing that would be enjoyed by like average like consumer or something like that, you know?
Yeah, just sort of a caricaturization of their culture.
Yeah.
Like I sort of enjoyed their little dance where they're like fighting over dancing with the girl.
I thought that was pretty like, it felt
that was like
classic.
It hit the level of like being just okay.
Yeah, well, but
it wasn't.
That to me felt like a sort of a classic silent movie moment.
Yeah. Of
like, it's all visual and like all very much with the music and stuff. Like, I liked that part, but I mean, it wasn't enough to save this movie for me, you know? Also, the boards hitting him and like all the slapstick stuff that happens like earlier on.
It's like, keeps coming back. Oh, this is a hit.
Yeah.
The horse farting. This is a hit.
Well, and I don't know if that's stuff that was carried over from the cartoon or whatever, but I mean, if it was, then I don't know.
It was just funny how the horse fart and then blowing a raspberry thing was like, it happened twice within like 5 minutes, and then the horse was gone for most of the movie. It's like they were like, we got to make sure the horse farts and blows a raspberry at least twice because it's not going to be in the movie much.
He had another movie that he was shooting at the same time. I think they were shooting Gladiator around that time, so he was double booked. So.
I was kind of wondering if maybe some of the jokes didn't hit us because maybe it was more for Canadian audience. I don't know. Let us know if you're Canadian and there were some jokes that we might have missed.
I mean, there may have been a couple, but not enough because it's very obvious, like mostly just going for like slapstick humor.
I feel like they could have played up like the whole like Canada thing a little more because this is probably an American film. That's what I'm assuming.
I don't know.
But I feel like they could have like ramped up things like being more Canadian.
Yeah, there's no maple syrup in the whole film.
No.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised. Also, Eric Idle makes an appearance in this. It like has like a semi-significant role.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was underutilized for how like comedically talented he is.
Yeah.
I feel like they gave him like kind of a blah role that just wasn't. I feel like he could have been something way more than what they gave him.
Yeah, his like delivery was much better than any of the jokes that he was getting.
Yeah,
because like none of his jokes were funny, but like you can tell he still got the delivery right.
Yeah,
it's just like it's like, oh, but the joke doesn't work.
An artist can't work well without proper tools.
Gandhi said it right. So why did you pick the movie?
I picked it because after we found out that you were doing The Mummy, Levi was already considering doing Encino Man.
Yep.
So I was thinking, like, well, are we going to do a full...
go all in.
Yeah, just go all in on our Oscar-winning boy. And we
whose film none of us have seen.
Yeah. It was just like, oh, yeah, let's do that. So I was thinking of Brendan Fraser movies that I have seen that I haven't seen in a while, and I came across like a couple I was kind of mulling over in my mind, but then Dudley Do-Right kind of like popped up while I was sort of searching for what to watch, and I was like, I haven't seen that in a long time. I remember as a kid I thought it was funny, but when you're a kid, like, the dumbest things in the world can be funny. So I was just like, I kind of want to see this, as an adult with fresh eyes, not having seen it since it came out like on video. Like my family probably their intrusive thoughts won, and they decided to rent Dudley Do-Right because we didn't own it.
Yeah.
We rented it or we borrowed it from someone or whatever. So, boy, it was what a ride this movie was, and not the good kind.
Yeah, you should have picked George of the Jungle. That's a classic.
Well, I was gonna pick Airheads, which was
no idea
another Brendan Fraser movie that I might pick at some point, but we're gonna give Brendan Fraser a rest.
We can do another round. I'll do George of the Jungle.
Let the man rest.
Yeah,
I'll
do the whale.
Okay, and then you do that, and then we'll
cap it off.
Yeah. Oh, just a little like side thing. The director of this movie also directed the first Police Academy movie. When we were watching this, like before we started, I was like, well, he made that, maybe it'll be good. Because I tried to like stay clear of like watching anything that had to do with this movie. Because I just wanted to go in like without any sort of preconceptions. And I was disappointed.
That's okay.
But that's why we do the show.
Yeah.
So we can
It's fun to
put a critical lens
on the
on
past.
Yeah.
Let's see movies you
just have a blast from the past, like the Brendan Fraser film Blast from the Past, kind of. Yeah.
You said it, brother. So what do you guys rate this?
Ooh, okay. 2 thumbs down.
Whoa.
Okay, so I don't really like this movie.
Is that our first two? Are you actually doing 2 thumbs down?
Can we do 2 thumbs down?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. That's our lowest score.
Lowest
I've never seen it before, so I didn't know if it was possible.
I did it for Legally Blonde.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Oh.
But I like I said before, I would take that back.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I will say it wasn't too fun of a film. I didn't really enjoy it. There wasn't very many jokes, and I laughed at the Native American part, but I don't know, it wasn't really that good. Mm-hmm. And except for the corn, she's flying out, the corn comes. That was pretty
she
good.
starts flipping.
Okay, so that gives it a little thumbs up maybe, but it's not enough to. I'll still say 2 thumbs down. It wasn't that good.
Wow.
You just really like laughing at Native Americans.
No, that's not it. It was funny.
Well, I'll agree a little bit with them because that part was the only really the part that like woke me up because it was so like it was so like insensitive, but in the kind of a funny way. And then I liked Alfred Molina a bit. Like he was okay. Like he was hamming it up. He was having fun. But I think I'm also going 2 thumbs down. I don't like hate it. It just doesn't have like anything other than just a few little things sprinkled here and there that I find somewhat entertaining.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a thumbs down. I think there was just enough in this movie that rises it above a double thumbs down.
Yeah, I'll say I was kind of teetering.
Yeah, it's barely passing to what would this be, like a D? Wait. Forget it. It's a thumbs down for me. For the reasons that you guys said, the Native Americans, Snidely Whiplash, there were a couple parts that I chuckled at. Mostly,
barely even talked about Brendan Fraser.
Well, he's what you would expect. His character was.
Thinking about that.
I was gonna bring him up, but then we started talking about something else.
Yeah.
Well, quickly, I guess. Brendan Fraser's character is pretty like vanilla. He's a dumb hero. That's it. That's really all you need to know.
All right, carry on with your rating.
1 thumb down. Almost 2 thumbs down, but there was just enough to save at least 1.
Save it from the gallows.
Yeah. That's it. I can't.
How are you gonna do right with this review by getting us the hell out of here?